What's going on, YouTube? This is Jim Afanis, and today I want to give you my spoiler-free final thoughts on Until Dawn. One of the cool things that I got to do over the holiday break was actually play and beat Until Dawn. It took me about 7 or so hours to play, just to give you an idea of the time frame. It is a survival horror game, so if you don't like scary monsters or things that jump at you or that kind of stuff, this game probably is not for you. However, if you are a PlayStation 4 owner, and to my knowledge it is only on PlayStation 4, you really owe it to yourself to check this game out because it's kind of like a sleeper hit. I remember seeing an E3 advertisement for it maybe like a year or so ago, and it showed Hayden Panettiere. She's a character in the game named Sam, basically running through this giant mansion. It was a series of either quick time events or very quick decisions like, do you want to go left or do you want to go right? Do you want to hide under the bed or jump out the window? And you're being chased by this really creepy dude. So the game basically stars a lot of like celebrity type characters that are completely voiced over and rendered to look like the celebrity, although it's not them. So if you've watched Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., one of my favorite characters on the show is Agent Ward. The actor who plays Agent Ward is Brett Dalton. He's in the game as well. Hayden Panettiere is in the game. There's a bunch of other people that my wife seemed to recognize that I didn't. Unfortunately, I'm not as hip as she is, I reckon. Anyways, so basically, the premise is all these teenagers go to a house for a party, like it's a house on a mountain, kind of very excluded from society, and things go horribly wrong, and that's kind of where the game picks up. You do take turns kind of playing as each different character. What really sold me on the game, what really made me love the game after I beat it, and really kind of stuck with me, was the whole causality butterfly effect. If you guys have seen the Butterfly Effect movie, a long time ago with Ashton Kutcher, the basic premise is that even the smallest butterfly flapping his wing could have a great impact on the world. And that's how this game basically is established. You are given a slew of choices throughout the game, and you don't even realize at the time how significant the choices are, but they greatly impact your character, the other characters that you're not currently playing as, and it really does drive the narrative of the game. The game can continue if characters die, very similar to Heavy Rain. So if you're playing with the character and you make a mistake and that character happens to die for a slew of reasons, I'm not going to give any of those away. Again, spoiler free. The story will continue. Obviously, you will get much more out of the game at the end if a majority of the characters live. There is a lot more story. There's a lot more excitement, I guess is the best way to put it, that the finale could be depending on who's left. So that's really, really cool. Now, when I ended up beating it, I'm not going to tell you who was alive and who wasn't alive, but I was very frustrated with myself because one of the game mechanics, on top of quick time events and decisions, is you have to hold the controller still. And on the PlayStation 4, it has the light bar, and basically it reflects, it shows like an outline of the light bar, and it says "Don't move." And I was holding the controller, and as you guys probably watched my video the other night, I was getting over a cold, and I don't know if I just was fatigued from the cold or what, but I ever so slightly lifted my right hand, and I set off a horrible death for somebody, and I felt so bad. It's just a game, but I felt so bad. Rachel, my wife, was sitting next to me, and she's like, "Oh my God, can you believe what you just did? I can't believe you killed so-and-so." And I'm like, "I'm sorry." And I want to go back and play it again. So really, really cool moments like that. But the whole butterfly effect, that's what really sells the game. So to give you guys an example, and this isn't really giving anything away because it's not going to make a whole lot of sense to you until you're playing it. Let's assume you find an item in the game, okay? Let's play you're playing with a character and you're exploring this house. And it's very story-driven, too. There's not really a lot of like, hey, just go have fun. It's very, I don't want to say scripted because there are a lot of different ways to meet your objectives, but it's very story-driven. So if you like a story-based game, you really would enjoy this. Let's say you're walking through the house and you find an item. Let's say it's a shovel, okay? And now you're carrying around a shovel. Later on, when you meet up with other characters, you have the option of keeping the shovel for yourself or giving it away. And that, something as simple as that, which you don't really think of, will affect if characters potentially live or die. And it's like, well, over a shovel? Well, there may be a scene later on where a character is being attacked by something, and if only they had a shovel to defend themselves. Oh, they didn't, they died. And you'll get this little icon on the upper left-hand corner. It looks like a butterfly wing, and it explodes, and it says the butterfly effect has been updated. And you realize after you start making certain decisions, some you realize, some you don't, you're like, oh man, I can't believe I did that. When I was walking through the house the first time, I locked the door behind me because I didn't want the boogeyman to eat my brains. Well, that's great for the character that's on the right side of the locked door, but for the guy that's on the other side that you're going to play with in 3 hours, when he tries to open the door and he can't, whoops, butterfly effect. And it's so neat how they did that. It really does render itself to replayability. And this is one of the few games that really come to mind that I can think of that I beat the story, that I want to go back and start over to do things different. I want to see how things would have changed. The game gives you these little collectible items. There's a lot of different collectible items in the game that really flesh out the story of what's happening. And again, I don't want to give too much away, but there's a story within a story. And once you think you know what's going on, you don't. And that's where these collectibles really kind of flesh out that world. And it's not those lame grimoire cards in Destiny. This is stuff that, you'll pick up a picture of something or a fragment of a note, and you'll slowly piece together what really happened. And once you figure it out, it's really kind of a chilly, like eerie feeling, like, oh my God, that's exactly what happened. And then you kind of have the evidence to back it up. On top of the collectible items, though, there's these totems, and you pick up these totems, and they will give you a glimpse into the future of kind of like a warning, like, hey, something might be coming your way. And they're not lying to you. It really does happen, but sometimes you don't realize it's happening until it's almost happened. You're like, oh yeah, I remember I saw the totem. So there are these like fortune shrines, death shrines, basically like, hey, it might show your character that you're playing with like dying in like 2 or 3 minutes, and if you don't if you don't act differently, you may end up losing. Sometimes the best action when you're given a decision is no action at all. Do I want to go left? Do I want to go right? Or do I want to have my hands off the controller and let my character just stand there? I don't want to do anything. I just want to stand there and wait. And sometimes that's the right choice too. So it really does reward you for both very quick decision making, very indecisiveness, and also just, I'm basically not participating in certain things. The characters have a relationship level to one another, so depending on how you treat certain characters, that may help you or hurt you later on, depending on when you need them the most. If you were really mean to somebody, then later on when you needed help, they may not be there for you. And that may be the end of you. It may result in nothing. It may result in your death. And it's so neat when the butterfly effect, going back to that, when it triggers. So I can't say enough good things about the game. It's really, really a true gem to play. I'm going to start another playthrough here in a couple days because I just want to see if I could get everybody out alive, and I want to see if certain decisions I made, how they affect it. Now, I know there's a lot of people on like the Wikipedia, the sites, and all the like YouTube and everything, some of the other places where they've given away all the endings and like, here's a list of everything you need to do. But just for the purist in me who just wants to enjoy it for the experiment, I got my blinders on. I don't care. I want to just do what I think was right. And to me, the playthrough that I had, the way it ended, minus something happening at the end where I didn't hold the controller still, that to me is the most like genuine ending, because that was what I would have done. I answered every question and discussion point as if it was me in that situation. I acted the way I would have acted in that situation. Sometimes rashly, just out of anger of something I didn't like, I would lash out. But sometimes I was a little, I was a little more defensive and timid, because that's probably the way I would have been had I been in that environment. So it was great having my wife sit next to me, having her kind of like help me out, and like we would have really like philosophical discussions in just a short amount of time, because sometimes you don't have a lot of time to react. So it's like, do you want to do this, that, or nothing? And I turned to Rachel and like, well, we're gonna do that. You know, we would kind of go back and forth a little bit. So it really is a fun game. I mean, obviously it's a very dark tone, but you know, you take it tongue in cheek. Some of it's campy horror, but some of it's pretty gory, and it's kind of like whoa. But it's one of those games that if you have a significant other who really isn't into video games, but would appreciate maybe a kind of a choose your own adventure game, this is definitely one for you guys to check out. And it was so much more fun playing with her than playing alone. And I would love to go back and play this game again with some of my friends who don't have the game or don't have a PS4 or aren't into games really at all. Just to kind of get, you know, just load up a chapter, just a random chapter with a character and just walk through it and just see how they react. And I think they would probably really enjoy the experience. I know I did. So can't say enough good things about it. It's an absolute home run, great game. I hope they make more games like this. I hope this continues to push the genre. One other thing I wanted to mention, because it does draw similarities to it, is Telltale games. Telltale games do a lot of those kind of, you know, choose your own adventure type games. With Telltale games, though, a lot of the decisions that you make truly seem like decisions that genuinely affect the world, but you quickly find out that it's very scripted. So whether you want to save character A or B, one of them's going to die, but in chapter 2 or 3, the one you saved is going to die. So at the end, it doesn't matter who you really saved, minus that little segment in there. This game is not like that. Until Dawn, there is true, genuine branching in terms of when characters die, that part of the story is cut off. Depending on certain directions you take, that part of the world may be cut off, or that part of the adventure may not come to fruition. And so it really does feel like you are sculpting your own world. That's just something I wanted to mention because I was thinking about, you know, I did play some Telltale games. My wife and I played Walking Dead Season 2 together. And there's a couple decisions where after kind of like seeing how the story fleshed out, I'm like, I don't think that really mattered as much as I thought it did. But when you have that, and Until Dawn, when you have that butterfly log, it'll actually track everything, and it's like flipping pages. You actually use the touchpad to flip through the pages of like, well, you said this, so this happened because this happened, because this happened, this happened. So you can actually see and track it, and some of the decisions take place over 3 or 4 different chapters. So it's, you know, it does build up, and you really do shape the world around you. That's something that I wish Telltale could learn from this. I don't know how they do it, how they would script things or whatever, but it really did feel like my own story, and I feel like a lot of people played the game very differently than me and had their own genuine experience too. So anyways, that's enough about Until Dawn. I highly recommend you all check it out. It is an amazing game. Tell your friends, tell your family, pick it up, enjoy it, have fun with it, because it's a real gem, and it's not like most other games, and that's what makes it so much fun. It's not just another shooter, another just action adventure game, but it's a true story-based adventure, and to me those are just priceless. So that's all I have for tonight. I want to thank you all for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.